Hey everyone, ready for a deep dive into today's current affairs? Buckle up, UPSC aspirants, because we're breaking down some pretty big stories that could be crucial for your prelims prep.
It's January 17th, 2025, and we've got a fascinating mix to untangle.
Let's jump right in.
Sounds good to me.
All right, first up is a case that's been making headlines, a nurse from Kerala sentenced to death in Yemen.
Yeah, this one's got a lot of people talking about blood money and how it might play a role.
Honestly, I've heard the term, but I'm not sure I fully get it.
It's definitely a bit complex. Blood money, or diya, as it's called in Islamic Sharia law, is basically financial compensation
Yep.
paid by the person who committed a crime to the victim's family.
Makes sense.
It's often used in cases of unintentional murder or manslaughter, those types of situations.
Right.
And it's practiced in a number of countries where Sharia law is part of the legal system.
The source mentioned that even traffic regulations in Saudi Arabia involve blood money.
Oh, yeah. That's a really interesting example.
So how does that work?
Well, in Saudi Arabia, if someone dies in a road accident, the driver might have to pay blood money
Wow.
to the victim's heirs in addition to any other legal penalties.
So it's kind of like,
It really highlights the importance of understanding these nuances, especially if you're dealing with international law or diplomacy.
yeah, for sure.
These things can have real consequences.
Now, in India, we don't have blood money, but we do have this thing called plea bargaining.
Right.
Is there any connection between the two?
Well, they both involve some form of compensation or negotiation, but the principles are quite different. Plea bargaining is more about allowing an accused person to negotiate with the prosecution for a reduced sentence in exchange for admitting guilt.
Ah, I see.
But here's the catch. In India, plea bargaining is only allowed for offenses that carry a prison sentence of less than 7 years. It's absolutely off limits for serious crimes like murder.
So it's more of a way to expedite the judicial process for less severe offenses. Okay, that's helpful to know. All right, let's move on to a natural phenomenon that literally made a splash recently. A mud volcano eruption in the Caspian Sea.
Ah, yes, the temporary ghost island. It really captured people's attention.
It did. So what exactly is a mud volcano? Because I'm picturing a regular volcano, but like with mud instead of lava.
Well, you're not entirely wrong. Mud volcanoes are formed when mud, gases, and water are pushed up from underground.
Okay.
Think of it like a giant underground pressure cooker.
Whoa.
Sometimes these eruptions are triggered by geothermal activity, like heat from the Earth's interior,
I see.
and other times they're linked to oil and gas deposits.
So the source mentioned both hot springs and oil fields being connected to mud volcanoes. Is there a difference in how they form?
There can be. Mud volcanoes formed by hot springs, they're often driven by the heat from the Earth's interior, while those associated with oil fields are more influenced by the pressure from trapped hydrocarbons.
That makes sense.
And while they may not be as dramatic as those fiery volcanic eruptions, mud volcanoes can still pose some serious hazards.
What kind of dangers are we talking about?
It's mainly the mud flow that can cause problems. Imagine a sudden wave of mud engulfing an area.
Yikes.
It can flood landscapes, bury infrastructure, disrupt ecosystems.
That's intense. Are there any mud volcanoes in India?
Actually, yes. Barating Island, part of the Andaman and Nicobar Islands, is known for its mud volcanoes. You can also find them in Assam.
Wow, so this isn't just some far-off phenomenon. It's something happening right here in India. All right, let's switch gears now to something that merges science, technology, and the environment.
Always a hot topic for the UPSC, right?
For sure. So let's talk about electrokinetic mining, a term I'll admit I'd never heard of before researching for this deep dive.
It's a relatively new technology, but it's gaining traction as a potential solution to a major global challenge, and that is the extraction of rare earth elements.
Now, why should UPSC aspirants care about rare earth elements?
Because they're essential components in so many technologies we depend on today, everything from smartphones and electric vehicles to defense systems and renewable energy. The demand is through the roof, but traditional mining methods for these elements, they're incredibly damaging to the environment.
So that's where electrokinetic mining comes in, offering a more sustainable approach. How does it work?
Electrokinetic mining, or EKM, uses an electric field to separate the rare earth elements from the ore. It's a much gentler process, significantly reduces the use of harsh chemicals, and minimizes the overall environmental impact.
So it's about finding a balance between technological advancement and environmental responsibility.
Exactly.
And the source mentioned some impressive figures: an 80% reduction in leaching agents, 60% lower energy consumption, and over 95% recovery rate. Those are some serious
They
numbers.
are. EKM has the potential to really revolutionize the mining industry, make it more sustainable. And for those preparing for the UPSC, understanding these emerging technologies and their implications is crucial.
Absolutely. Speaking of important developments, let's turn our attention to something that's making waves in India's fight against cybercrime, the Central Suspect Registry. It's already helped prevent a staggering number of fraudulent transactions.
It really is impressive. It's a testament to how India is leveraging technology to combat cybercrime, especially when it comes to financial fraud.
So what exactly is this registry?
Well, it's essentially a centralized database containing information on individuals suspected of being involved in cybercrimes.
Okay, so how does it actually work? Who has access to this information and how is it used?
It's managed by the Indian Cybercrime Coordination Center, or I4C for short. Law enforcement and intelligence agencies at both the state and central levels can access it.
So it's all about collaboration.
Precisely. The idea is to create a more coordinated approach to cybercrime investigation and prevention. By sharing information and tracking patterns, agencies can identify repeat offenders, potentially stop crimes before they even happen.
It's like connecting the dots and building a more robust cybersecurity infrastructure in India. Right, for our next topic, we're heading down under to Australia, where scientists have made a rather chilling discovery.
Oh.
A new species of the Sydney funnel web spider.
And not just any funnel web spider, right?
Nope. This one, nicknamed Big Boy, is larger and even more venomous than its already infamous relatives.
Big boy. Doesn't sound too friendly.
Not at all.
Mm.
Can you tell us more about funnel web spiders and why they're considered so dangerous?
Funnel web spiders are known for their aggressive nature and their highly potent venom.
Oh yeah, I've heard about that.
It contains a complex cocktail of toxins. They build these distinctive funnel-shaped webs that lead to their burrows, and they're quite protective of their territory.
I can imagine.
And get this, the male Sydney funnel web spider is actually considered the most dangerous spider to humans, according to the Guinness World Records.
Wow, okay. That's definitely not a spider I want to run into.
I don't blame you.
But it is fascinating that their venom, while dangerous, is also used to produce antivenom that can save lives.
It's a great point. It highlights how even the most dangerous creatures can sometimes offer solutions to medical challenges.
For sure. Okay, now let's delve into a topic that's both intriguing and concerning. Hydroclimate whiplash. It's a term that's been popping up more and more lately.
Yeah, especially with the recent devastating wildfires in Los Angeles, it's definitely something to be aware of.
So what exactly is hydroclimate whiplash and why should we be concerned?
It refers to these increasingly frequent and extreme shifts between wet and dry periods that we're seeing globally. Think prolonged droughts followed by intense bursts of rainfall. That's hydroclimate whiplash in action, and it's being amplified by climate change.
So it's like the weather's on a roller coaster swinging between extremes.
Exactly.
And how does climate change factor into this?
Well, as global temperatures rise, it leads to increased evaporation, which means more moisture in the atmosphere. But it also disrupts traditional weather patterns, leading to those intensified dry spells and then sudden heavy downpours.
So like a double whammy. And what kind of impact does this have on the ground?
It can be quite devastating. Those intensified droughts increase the risk of wildfires, damage crops, and lead to water scarcity. And those sudden downpours, while they replenish some water sources, they can also trigger flash floods, landslides, and soil erosion.
It's like a domino effect of problems.
You could say that.
The source mentioned that global occurrences of hydroclimate whiplash have increased by a staggering 66% in recent decades. That's a pretty alarming trend.
It is indeed, and it highlights the urgent need for adaptation strategies, especially for countries like India that are particularly vulnerable to climate change impacts. Understanding hydroclimate whiplash is crucial for developing effective disaster management plans and mitigating risks.
Okay, for our final topic in this part of our deep dive, let's look at a development within India's nuclear program. The reconstitution of the Atomic Energy Commission, or AEC.
It's a significant move. The AEC plays a crucial role in shaping India's nuclear policy and overseeing the Department of Atomic Energy, or DAE.
What exactly does the DAE do, and why is the AEC's role so important?
The DAE is responsible for a wide range of activities related to atomic energy, from research and development to the production of nuclear power and the management of nuclear waste. The AEC provides overall guidance and direction to the DAE, ensuring that India's nuclear program aligns with national priorities and international obligations.
So it's like the governing body for all things nuclear in India.
You could say that.
And the source mentioned that the AEC is headquartered in Mumbai and has a long history dating back to the early days of India's nuclear program.
That's right. It was established in 1958, just a few years after the DAE, reflecting the importance that India has placed on atomic energy since its independence. The recent reconstitution of the AEC signals a continued commitment to this sector and its potential to contribute to India's energy security and technological advancement.
Okay, so much information to take in. Remember, these are just a few highlights from January 17th, 2025. And for those prepping for the UPSC, staying on top of these developments, understanding the connections, and being able to analyze them, it's key.
It's not just about memorizing facts, it's about developing a deeper understanding of how these events and concepts shape our world.
We'll be back with part 2 of our deep dive shortly, where we'll explore even more fascinating insights from the world of current affairs. Stay tuned.
Welcome back, everyone. Ready to dive into some more intriguing current affairs?
Absolutely. Let's pick up where we left off on this January 17th deep dive.
All right, our next stop takes us to Tripura, where there's been a lot of debate surrounding the Kokborok language.
Oh yeah, I read about that. There have been protests calling for the adoption of the Roman script for Kokborok.
Right. It's a fascinating issue that touches upon language, identity, representation, all of that.
I can see that. So can you give us some background on the Kokborok language and why this script debate is so important?
Well, Kokborok is a Sino-Tibetan language spoken by the Buruk people, the indigenous inhabitants of Tripura.
Okay.
And it was actually recognized as an official language of the state back in 1979. Now, the movement to adopt the Roman script for Kokborok stems from the belief that it would make the language more accessible.
I see.
Especially for younger generations.
It's interesting how a script can become such a focal point for these cultural and political movements.
It really is.
And speaking of Kokborok, the source mentioned that the word itself has a pretty cool meaning.
Oh, yeah. Kokborok is a combination of kok, meaning verbal, and borok, meaning people or human.
So it literally translates to
language of the people.
Wow, that's pretty powerful.
Hmm.
It reflects how deeply language is intertwined with the identity of the Borok community.
It does.
Okay, let's shift gears now to a development that could make international travel from India a lot smoother.
You mean the Fast Track Immigration Trusted Traveler Program?
The one and only, or FTITTP for short.
It's definitely going to be a game changer.
So the Union Home Minister is set to inaugurate this nationwide program.
That's right.
It's designed to expedite immigration clearance for eligible travelers. So who can actually take advantage of this program, and how does it work?
Well, the FTI-TTP is open to Indian nationals and foreign nationals holding OCI cards.
OCI cards?
Yeah, those are Overseas Citizen of India cards.
Got it.
To enroll, you'll need to register online, provide the necessary documents, and undergo biometric registration. Once you're all set, you can use designated e-gates at participating airports.
Oh, so you can skip those long immigration queues.
Precisely.
That sounds pretty convenient.
It is. The goal is to make the experience smoother and more efficient for both travelers and authorities.
It sounds like it's part of the government's push to use technology to improve services and infrastructure.
It is.
The source mentioned that the STI-TTP was first launched at Delhi's IGI airport last year and is now being expanded to major airports across the country.
That's right.
And it's part of that Viksit Bharat 2047 initiative,
You got it.
which aims to create a developed and prosperous India.
Exactly.
So it's not just about faster immigration, it's about projecting a modern and efficient image of India to the world.
Absolutely.
It shows how these seemingly small changes can be part of a much larger vision.
They can.
All right, before we move on to the final part of our deep dive, let's take a minute to recap some of the most interesting facts we've uncovered.
Okay, I'm ready.
First up, did you know that in Islamic law, the amount of diya, or blood money, can be as high as 100 camels,
Wow.
200 cows, or even 1,000 gold dinars? That's a pretty significant sum.
It is. It highlights the weight of this concept in certain cultures and legal systems. It's a reminder that justice and accountability can look very different around the world.
Absolutely. And then there's the potential of electrokinetic mining to reduce the environmental impact of rare earth element extraction. Those numbers were pretty impressive, right?
Oh, they were. An 80% reduction in leaching agents, 60% lower energy consumption.
Amazing.
It shows how innovation can pave the way for more sustainable solutions, which is crucial as we face this growing demand for resources while trying to protect our planet.
For sure. Okay, now for a slightly less comforting fact, but one worth remembering. The male Sydney funnel web spider is officially the most dangerous spider to humans.
According to the Guinness World Records, no less.
It's a good reminder that nature can be both awe-inspiring and dangerous. Understanding these creatures and their habitats is important for both our safety and the health of ecosystems.
It is.
Okay, before we wrap up this part, here's a question to ponder. Given the increasing prevalence of hydroclimate whiplash, how should India adapt its disaster management strategies to mitigate the risks?
It's a complex issue, no doubt. It requires a multifaceted approach involving infrastructure development, early warning systems, community engagement, sustainable land management practices.
It's a challenge that needs serious attention, especially for a country like India that's particularly vulnerable to these climate change impacts.
Couldn't agree more.
We'll be back shortly with the final part of our deep dive. Stay tuned. Welcome back for the final part of our deep dive. It's time to connect the dots and see how all these stories fit together.
Exactly, because remember, the UPSC isn't just about knowing a bunch of facts.
Right.
It's about being able to see the big picture.
So how can we apply that kind of thinking to what we've learned today?
Let's take the concept of blood money, for example.
Okay.
It highlights the interplay between cultural values, legal systems, and even international relations. Imagine a UPSC question that asks you to compare and contrast the concept of blood money with legal provisions in India, like plea bargaining, and their implications for diplomatic negotiations in cases involving Indian nationals abroad,
That's a great example. It's not just defining terms, it's about analyzing different legal frameworks and how they might clash or converge in real-world situations.
Precisely. Now let's shift gears to hydroclimate whiplash.
Okay.
This is a phenomenon with far-reaching consequences for India, potentially impacting agriculture, water resources, disaster management. A UPSC question could ask you to analyze the link between climate change, hydroclimate whiplash, and its potential to worsen existing socioeconomic vulnerabilities in different regions of India.
So we need to think about how this scientific concept translates into real-world challenges and solutions for India.
Exactly. It's about connecting the science to the human impact.
Got it. And what about the Central Suspect Registry?
Ah, yes. That one showcases India's efforts to combat cybercrime. A potential UPSC question could delve into the challenges of balancing individual privacy with the need for effective law enforcement in the digital age, especially in the context of India's evolving cybersecurity landscape.
It's a tough balance to strike.
It is.
And remember that new, larger Sydney funnel web spider we talked about?
Oh, yeah. Big boy.
It might seem like just a scientific discovery,
Yeah.
but it highlights the importance of biodiversity conservation and understanding ecosystems.
Absolutely.
A UPSC question could explore the link between climate change habitat loss and the emergence of new or potentially dangerous species.
It challenges us to think about how interconnected environmental issues really are.
So it's not just about isolated events, it's about seeing the ripple effects.
Precisely. The UPSC exam wants to see that you can think critically and connect those dots between different fields of knowledge.
So today's deep dive wasn't just about giving you a list of facts, but about helping you develop that analytical mindset that's so crucial for the UPSC exam.
And remember, this is just the beginning. As you continue your UPSC journey, keep exploring, keep questioning, and keep connecting those dots.
Well said. And on that note, we've reached the end of our deep dive into the top current affairs from January 17th, 2025. We hope you found it insightful. We'll be back soon with more deep dives to help you ace those prelims. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share this with your fellow UPSC aspirants. Until next time, keep diving deep.